live, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, dude. Between taking care of, me and you taking care of personal things, professional things. I think the last time we did a show was 12 days, man. And it feels like every time we get on here, I'm trying to figure this stuff out again. I feel rusty, but it's funny because we're going to do a show on Monday. Couldn't do it. And then I think we're going to do one on, Monday. And then I was like, well, let's wait. There may be some other stuff that comes out. And there was definitely some other stuff that came out between now and then. And then obviously Texas basketball. Both women's and men's played the other night. Definitely weren't going to do a show then. So Thursday was going to be the best show. But I think we have a lot to talk about. And I think one of these comments, I think, is one of the ones we wanted to start with first. If I can pull these comments up here. First, actually, I want to those that are listening that are, prior service members of whatever service you're in, definitely want to wish you guys a happy Veterans Day there. Don't want to forget that. It's always easy for me to align those things. My 10-year anniversary is tomorrow. My military anniversary is the 11th of November, and my wedding anniversary is 12th of November. So it's definitely hard to forget that. So I think Jeremy's messing with his camera there. So
yeah, trying to get the shot.
Trying to get the shot there, but I'm trying to find the question that Jeremy pulled up that I now can't find. I think it's this one here. It seems like coaches have finally had enough of the spoiled, coddled attitudes of these kids. Well done, Bo Davis. I can tell you. Go ahead, Jeremy. I'll let you talk a little bit.
I've had enough, dude. Like, Bo Davis had enough too. Like, you got to. When you talk about the defensive line and the kids that we have, when you talk about Condre Coburn, T'Vondre Sweat, Alfred Collins, like, you've got to expect more. And I think at this point, this defensive line coach felt like the guys that we had on this defensive line could just solidify and could be that juggernaut that would lead the defense in this season. And they didn't do that. And they walked on the bus, they laughed about it, and he had enough of it. He had enough of it. And he talked about it, and I couldn't agree with him more at this point.
Yeah, me and Jerry both grew up in the military, and I can tell you we put our heart and soul into us, being in the Army would be soldiers, and I've been in positions where you love your soldiers and they know you love them, you know what I'm saying? But at one particular point, they may get off track and you have to bring them back on track. And I think that's what this is, you hope that they become more, that they have that feeling of disappointment versus, anything else. The feeling of, hey, I've disappointed my coach, because I have no doubt that these guys, because you heard it, through spring, you've heard it through summer, how they love Coach Davis. And I think he loves them back, but there's a time and a point where on every human, there's this far between a pat on the back and a kick in the ass. And sometimes you need that kick in the ass. And that is what was leaked. That video that was leaked is exactly what that was. That was a moment in time where he absolutely laid into their ass and let them know exactly the way he felt about them. I don't know if it was a position group thing. I don't know if it was a bus full of defensive players. But at that particular point, he told them exactly what he thought. And that is, if you didn't come to University of Texas to play football, then you could find yourself in the transfer portal. One. Yeah. Number two, I loved how he didn't say you lost the game. He says, you got your ass kicked. He said, I got my ass kicked.
Yeah.
And so he took it personal, and I think that's where a lot of it, to me, that was probably the most important statement that I took away from it, is that he said, I got my ass kicked. And I think that's important to really talk about. But as far as a coaching staff, these guys have been around the block. He's been at LSU under Nick Saban. He's been at Nick Saban at Alabama. He's been in the NFL. He's been with Mac Brown. So he knows what winning football looks like. He knows what a winner looks like. He knows exactly what he wants on that defensive line. And I think he understands what he has now. It's either guys that aren't good enough, one, or two, that just don't play hard enough. And if they're not going to play at the level in which they're supposed to play, there's two things you do with them. You tell them to enter the transfer portal, and you get guys like these recruits that, if you go back and look at their tweets, say, damn, I want to come play for a coach like that. I think it failed to hit the mark. And when they tried to leak the video, I think it was trying to give them a black eye, but believe it or not, I would say 95% of the fan base, to include the recruits and family members and other media guys, jumped on board and said, no, absolutely. He did nothing wrong. He laid it out, and he told them exactly what he thought about it.
100%. Like when you talk about Jamon Tap, when you talk about Brown, you're talking about like many Justice Finkley, like guys that are going to be on this defensive line playing under Bo Davis. He understands who he's talking to. Like go into the transfer portal, because I understand that I have all these kids that are coming in this 2022 class who have the ability to take your spot. And you have nothing but admiration for a coach who says, if you're not going to give me effort, if you're not going to understand what I need from you, that I want your ass to find another place to go.
Yeah, 100%. Got a super chat here, 199 from Lane Harrison. Appreciate it, brother. Hook 'em for the super chat. Definitely appreciate it. Don't want this to go negative the entire way. Obviously Texas is going through, lost 4 games, in a row. You got a game that's you believe is winnable this week at home. Definitely don't want to go entire negative Bo Davis the entire time, because we've got some other sports to talk about. Hell, me and Jeremy even thought about changing the name of the title of our program to Texas Sports Talk. So, because there's other things to talk about. Texas basketball's got a big game on Saturday night. I think 9:30. If I'm not mistaken, against Gonzaga, number 1 team in the country. So we're definitely going to get into some basketball talk. Probably talk a little bit about how we're going to move forward as a program. As far as football program, how we're going to move forward and what to kind of expect moving forward. Obviously, you're back in a quarterback situation where you don't know who's going to start until tomorrow. Or they plan on naming a starter tomorrow, but it sounds like both guys are going to play. If I'm Coach Sarkisian now, that's probably outside of the offensive line and maybe some defensive line guys and a whole bunch of host of other people you're probably going to have to find in transfer portal. You might try to find a guy that's currently sitting at some, group of 5 school that's a uber talented quarterback and bring him in to try to win an earning spot next year.
But in my mind, like, you walk Casey out there, you walk Hudson out there. You've got to find a way to get to 5-5. Like in my mind, you're taking game by game, trying to improve your receiver core. You're trying to find a way to improve your offensive line. You're trying to improve your running back room. Like, to me, at this point, it really doesn't matter who you're going to bring in the quarterback room. So I think you have him here, and maybe you're looking at guys like Malik Murphy. You're looking at guys like Quinn Ewers. Like, there's a whole lot of talk about Quinn Ewers, coming back to the University of Texas, but I'm not sure that's the thing.
Yeah, he said, Bo made me want to get to Austin and put my pads on. Hell, I listened to the damn thing about 3 or 4 times. I was showing people at work, and then I got in the car and I had to listen to it through the Bluetooth to hear it a little bit more. And then I called Jeremy and had him listen to it. So I probably listened to that damn thing probably 10, 15 times. I'm probably going to listen to it, get excited again once I get off here tonight, because it's definitely necessary. Sounds like we got some injuries. Bijan, Roshan, that are game time decisions. Quarterback room, man. Joshua Moore decided the transfer portal. Looks like Moochie Dixon, Washington, and a host of other wide receivers are going to have to kind of step it up moving forward. A wide receiver room where you had a whole bunch of depth at the beginning of the year. It sounds like you've kind of depleted yourself at this particular point. So we'll kind of see what that looks like moving forward as well.
Yeah, Jake Smith went on to USC, and like you talked about, like with the injuries of Whittington, like at this point you have Washington, and forgive me, this young man is like snoring behind me, but Jordan Whittington and then Xavier Worthy and a couple other guys.
Yeah. If you heard anything about Quinn Ewers, no, we're on Horns 247 page every once in a while, looking at their content. Again, Quinn Ewers is in a situation where he's playing. I think they got 3 5-star quarterbacks there at Ohio State. You can only start one quarterback. a game. So how does it impact him moving forward? It sounds like a lot of guys that maybe have left the state of Texas are thinking about coming back to the state of Texas. Is Quinn Ewers one of them? Maybe. Do I think that Steve Sarkisian, if he felt like Quinn Ewers, wanted to come back to Texas, do I think there would be some probably backdoor channel talking going on? Absolutely, 100%. Because you don't turn down, a guy like Quinn Ewers and not let him come back to the program. Especially, again, I don't know what the situation between him and Tom Herman were, but it's that's all. That was one of his dream schools, always his dream school. And if you get an opportunity to have him come back, it just creates a quarterback room where you have competition.
Coco Lock. I was talking about why the kids are with me.
Johnny Munoz said he sounds like him while he's taking his lunchtime nap. I like taking lunchtime naps too, Johnny. I'll eat my food real fast. Usually go out to the car and try to take a nap at lunchtime as well. They're talking about how much. Trying to think here. All right, let's talk a little bit of men's basketball, man. Obviously, 2 games in, one of them, counts, the one against Houston Baptist this week. I was asking Jeremy a little earlier. We were having a phone call, I think about 1 o'clock this afternoon, and I was talking to him about the starting 5. And when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures, do you think it's going to remain that way where you're going to have a host of guys that are good double figures? Or do you think you're going to have a couple of guys that are going to eventually hit that 20, 25-point mark that we're used to seeing at the University of Texas?
That's on absolutely not. Like when you got Mark Scar, Mitchell, Devin Disu, who's not even found to run the court at this point, and you got guys who we've seen before, and Courtney Ramey and Andrew Jones. Like that's 5 deep. And at my point, at this point in my analysis, like you have 7 or 8 guys who are going to be able to score in double figures, and you don't need to go away from that until you find yourself into the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah, Johnny, this is one of the things that I was looking at on during this last game Tuesday night is the rebounding. It felt like we were getting rebound. They were getting second shot opportunities the entire game. It's what it felt like to me. And then you had Tim Allen who had the yips and was fumbling the ball all over the place. And to me, rebounds and turnovers is absolutely important moving forward as we move through this season. I don't think you have one of these when you look at who we currently have on the roster. I think we're used to having guys that are like jump out of the arena kind of guys, man. And I don't think you have those here. Those big time shot blockers we're used to, those big time dunkers you're used to having, those rebounders that we have. And I think that's just the way that Chris Beard's teams are set up. It may be a positive going into Gonzaga, because if you look at what Baylor was able to do to Gonzaga and running up and down the court, and using their athleticism versus that length that Gonzaga has, it may be a positive come Saturday night. We'll kind of see where it goes. But I'm with you, Johnny. When you're out rebounding Houston Baptist team by 1, and then the turnover margin, we did a little better in the second half than we did in the first half. But those are the 2 things that when you're talking about moving on through the season, those are the 2 things that I'm definitely going to be watching out for.
Protect the basketball, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Marcus Carr is that guy who's going to protect the basketball, find weak links in the defense to find our guys in open spaces. And we have a better shooting team this year than we ever had, in my mind. Like, we're going to score points on the offensive side of football or offensive side of basketball. We just got to find a way to play defense.
Yeah, D-Train, I'm with you, man. We had 2 turnovers, but those ugly turnovers in the first half, if you're playing good teams, man, that can put you in a deficit really, really, really fast. Definitely glad that we cleaned it up, though, in the second half. And again, this is it's going to all be about defense with him. So we'll kind of see where it goes moving forward. But yeah, definitely the turnovers in the first half against good teams is definitely going to come back and haunt you if you can't get that under control. So, what do you want to move on to, man? Gonzaga's a horse of a different
Yeah,
color.
yeah. I mean, they have Chet Holmgren. They have Drew Timme. Like, they have horses in the front court that guys like, Trey Mitchell are going to have to deal with. The point is that we have to walk into Spokane, Washington, and like the coaches said it, like, it's a win-win for us. Like Chris Beard said, if we lose this football or this basketball game, it's we play the best team in the country on the road, and we know where we have to go. If we lose this basketball game, that's the thing. But if we win it, then we understand that we have the ability to compete with anybody in the country. So,
yeah, I think it's a great, obviously, barometer of where you're going to be at moving forward. I think playing number one team in the country, with you being the number 5 team in the country in the third game of the season, really second game of the season, is absolutely a barometer of where your team kind of show you where you're at. But I think, again, it's going to take some of these guys, really take our team a little longer to probably mesh moving forward with all the transfers. I think timing is important on passes. What to expect from a guy that you haven't played with in real-time basketball, but a couple of times as we move forward in the season, that's with the growth that you really want to be able to see. How are they moving together? I'm interested to see where what he does as the season moves on. Who are the first 5 guys to go out? Who are the guys that come off the bench? Obviously, Brock Cunningham is your glue guy on the team, like he was last year. He's that hustler, the guy that's going to get out there and hustle. He's going to get you as many steals as possible. He may miss a shot or two, but as soon as that guy gets a rebound, I promise you, he's going to be the first guy to get to the guy that's got a rebound to try to get that steal. So I think Brock Cunningham is, like they said the other night on the telecast, I think is, he's probably the closest thing to what Chris Beard wants in a player in intensity. And it's nice to see that, we're getting those all gas, no brakes things we're expecting from the football team. It's nice to see that we're actually getting it from our basketball teams. And somebody actually had a comment up here. Let me see if I can find it. Johnny Munoz talking about Vic Shaver. Now that was all gas and brakes so separately. Laugh out loud. They tried to put 200 points on that team. Hell, they had 80 points by halftime. I think it was the second highest scoring basketball game in Texas Longhorn women's basketball history. And they probably could have scored another 100 points if they would have kept their starters in. I think they played all 14, if I'm not mistaken, players that on the bench. So everybody got an opportunity to play, which was really, really, really cool. I think the last girl came in at about minute and a half left in the basketball game. So right now we got two good basketball basketball teams, which is nice to have when you got a football team that is less than mediocre at this particular point. Talk about Marcus Carr. I think he scored over 20 points. I think previously last year, I think he scored over 20 points. Mm-hmm. I just feel like Marcus Carr is going to be more of the find the guy, the wide open guy, more than he is to score this year. I think we need that. I think TJ Ford. I think you need a point guard that's going to be able to get the ball to these uber talented basketball players that are used to scoring in double digits and over 20 points.
Yeah, Timmy Allen's my favorite guy, man. Like, Timmy Allen's like the bread and butter of this Texas basketball team. Like, I really love Mitchell and what he can bring to the basketball team, but I really love Timmy Allen at this point.
Yeah, and if I look at it, man, you go back and look at it. Talk about size, and again, it comes back to rebounding, right? You currently have Trey Mitchell that's sitting at 6'9", probably going to be your inside guy, real fluid, able to get the ball on the bounce and do what they need to, and then you have Dylan DeSouza, who is currently at 6'9", and then everybody else is really 6'6", 6'4", 6'2", 6'3". That's small, that's able to really run the floor. And I think we're going to have to take advantage of that this year.
100%, man. Like, you got to play D, like you said. Like, I feel like our backcourt is as big as any backcourt that we're gonna face in the season. It's going to be like matching up against Drew Timme and the Chet Holmgrens, the 7-2 and 7, weak players that we're going to have to match up against, Gonzaga. That's going to maybe, cause a problem for us. But on the offensive side, I really feel like we have the biggest backcourt. of anybody that we're going to play.
Yeah. I think it's really looking at basketball, and I think this is a good one at Sports Talk Center on Twitter here. We've slowly transitioned to a basketball school these last 2 years.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. I see it as they're making up for what you don't have in a football program right now. So you can actually go from football season to basketball season. Hell, your volleyball team is ranked number 2 in the country, and then you go into baseball season. Who made it to the College World Series last year. So it's a program, and I'm talking about program, University of Texas sports program. Overall, you're doing really, 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 really well. It's that missing link in the football program, but I think it goes back to where you thought, and I was talking to Jeremy about this, and we'll transition a little bit back to football, is that, when Tom Herman was handed the keys to the car, I think the cake was baked. I truly do. I think if you look at Charlie Strong's players and the way that they were able to recruit the guys that they have and the guys that are currently in the NFL, I asked Jeremy the other day, if you were to look at the roster currently right now of the football program, how many guys could you legitimately say have an opportunity to make it to the NFL and play on Sundays? And Jeremy's holding up 2, and one of those being Bijan Robinson. And I think that as a coach, so Coach Sark coming in, obviously he's got to be positive. He sees what he had, Colorado versus, Texas versus Colorado in the bowl game. And he says, okay, I got something to work with. And then you start working with these guys through spring, and then you start working with these guys through summer. And you want to be a positive guy that says, hey, you know what? This is not a rebuild. This is just, hey, if we could get the same level of play, which we think they have moving forward, this is going to be a successful season. But I think it's turned into an absolute rebuild. And I think these coaches have started to realize this is an absolute real rebuild. And you got to get rid of the 2008. I think to be successful, I think you got to get rid of that 2018 class. I think that once that 2018 class is gone, because you got to think about it. How many guys from 2017 to 2020 are no longer with the program?
A lot.
Because of either medical issues, right? Medical issues. You'd probably have one of the top linebackers in the country into Gabriel Floyd, but unfortunately, because of a neck injury, right, he was unable to continue his career. And how many other guys in those classes, were either misses, transferred out of the program, or no longer on the program for whatever reason. So I think, again, you go back to recruiting rankings, you go back to the guys you've recruited, but how many of those guys are misses or no longer playing with the program anymore? So I think that's what eventually turns it into, now you got a 1 deep, you barely have a 2 deep, and you definitely don't have a 3 deep, and your 3 deep is probably filled with walk-ons like, a Jeb Bush, a Kai Money, who's probably going to see some playing time now that Joshua Moore's gone.
But he watched the film, though. He watched the film, and he sold us that this defensive front was probably the deepest defensive front that he's seen in a long, long time. Like Coach Sarkisian talked about this defensive front in the summer, in the spring. Like, it was defensive. Like the problems with the offensive line were created by the defensive line. And so, like, net gain, we have to get back. We have to figure out what we have to do in the offensive line, defensive line to make this football team better. Because in my mind, like folks are talking about the middle aspects and laughing why you get your ass kicked. Like, I'm done with that, man. Like, you have to be the best football player that you could possibly be for 60 minutes on Saturday, in practice to show that's the case.
Yeah. D-Train here, the mental aspects of football was spreading like cancer. No, they weren't developed, and I think y'all are really discounting how mentally it affects life. No, I think that they as a team can't pick themselves off the canvas when they get punched in the mouth.
No.
Bottom line, and that's all football. Jeremy was talking about a story before we got on here of a coach that he had there at DeSoto High School that grabbed his helmet and drug him about 10 to 15 yards down the football field and told him, hey, dude, you know what? Go back and run the same play again. And
Daddy got me afterwards. It was
the same thing.
Just that. It was Dad saw it in the stands and was going to give you the shit afterwards.
Yeah. It's funny because I seen a tweet the other day, and I was showing my daughter after I showed her. I was showing her the rant on the bus, and she's like, "Goodness gracious!" My 17-year-old daughter was listening to this, and I was like, "Yeah." But I read a tweet that says it was from a Spanish lady that was on Twitter, and she said that is absolutely what I want a coach to do to my son. And then when he gets home, I'm gonna translate it into Spanish so I know he 100% understands it.
Get him again.
And I think that's what parents want. You know, it is about mentality. It's about a dog eat dog world. It's about being physical. It's about being mentally tough. If you're not mentally tough and you're not resilient, I think it comes back to resiliency too. Resiliency has to be either you're the egg or you're the tennis ball. Either you're able to bounce back or you're going to crack. And I think that's what it comes down to. And I think this team lacks resilience. And I think a part of that is when they get down, they get punched in the mouth. They don't know how to respond.
Nope.
And I think again, 2018 class needs to move on. You need to let some of these guys that we have currently in the program that want to take on that mentality step up. If you don't want to be on the team, exit stage left now. No qualms about it. Hey, he told them, hell, if they didn't want to be on the bus, get the hell off the bus. Not in those words, but he told them to get off the bus.
But it's real.
He had enough about it, because you got to think about it, right? As a coach, this is your livelihood, right? You just left the Detroit Lions, a place where you didn't even have to recruit, right? You're dealing with NFL football players. You left there to come to University of Texas, and then you get on a bus full of with student athletes that have just lost 4 games. And they're laughing and smiling and talking and doing all the other things. Hell, I'd have lost my mind. And I probably have done it, numerous times over a 20-year career, 22-year career in the Army. I know I lost my mind in situations like that. And there's a time and a place for it. And that was the time and the place for it, to let them understand that I don't understand how you could be okay losing 4 games and sit here and still be smiling and joking and having fun when we've given you a scholarship and a free education to go out there and be your best.
Yeah, and that's
but play mediocre.
That's probably Clint, is we have the same quick trigger as Bo Davis. Like, if you appreciate what you were given, because we can talk about our upbringing and how we didn't have much and how we kind of created what we have for ourselves. But when you don't appreciate it and you're laughing and you're joking, like that hits like full circle with us, like just like it did with Bo Davis. And you have to care about your performance. You have to care about your education. You have to care about the free money that the university's given to you, the NIL, and that's not even talking about all the after collegiate opportunities that you have. Like, you've got to care. Like, you have to work. You have to care. And like, never ever would I ever smile, laugh on a bus ride back from a loss, ever, from the tarmac or the stadium to the tarmac, or the tarmac to the airport. Like, that's not a thing, man. It's definitely not a thing.
Yeah. So Lane Harrison, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. This message is loud and clear. Buy in or leave. These coaches recognize their heads are on the line. Otherwise, and I think it is, man. It's their livelihood. You're a coach. They make damn good money doing it, but
Bo Davis, in my mind, Bo Davis has made enough money. Like, Bo Davis, like you talked about, he coached in Detroit. He coached Alabama. He coached in Texas. Like, he doesn't need their money. He cares about these kids, man. Like, he truly cares about their wherewithal, and he cares about how they look at a football game. He totally cares about how they perform. Like, in my mind, that's what I get pissed off. Like, I give a damn about what my paycheck says, because he's done. Like, he has enough money to not give a crap, in my mind. But he wants these kids to care about their performance and about getting better.
Yeah.
As what you were talking about earlier.
I just think it's either. I think again, we'll see what the attrition is. Either now, which we're seeing it now. Obviously Joshua Moore entering the transfer portal. We'll see what the attrition is at the end of the year. You'll know who wants to stay in this program when January rolls around. When December rolls around, you'll see if we get into a bowl game at this particular point, you hope you get into a bowl game, win 6 wins and get to a bowl game. But we'll see what happens in December when that attrition hits.
And I at this point, I think these coaches are asking these kids that same question. It's like, make a scholarship available for guys who want to be here. Like, if you want to leave, that's what Bo Davis was telling them. If you want to leave, I got a spot for Jamon Tapp. I got a spot for 𝗟𝗓𝗞𝗘 𝗦𝗧. I got a spot for all these other kids that I'm looking to bring in that I feel like is going to have the same mentality that I have. Like, if you want to go, go. Like, create a roster spot. Please do that. Like, Joshua Moore, if you don't play anymore, like, good riddance. Like, I think they're at their wits' end and trying to create their own roster, and that's what they deserve. Because the only, like we talked about before, the only guy that has a recruiting offer and is accepted is Xavier Worthy. The only guys that are on this roster that Steve Sarkisian and his coaching staff has recruited is the transfers plus Xavier Worthy. Like, at this point, they're like trying to cut loose with those guys who are not on board and not going to jump on the train because they feel like they have other guys that are going to do just that.
I think where you see it too is a lack of leadership, a lack of leadership, team leadership. You know, like every unit I was ever in the Army, in every platoon or every squad, there was always a leader that someone looked up to.
Yeah,
that said, hey, hey, lock it up, or hey, do this or do this.
Don't
but
quit, yeah.
They respected them enough. They respected enough to listen to them. That makes sense. And I think we lack that piece of that piece on the football team. Tom Herman had this leadership council, right, where he picked 5, 6, 7, 8 guys where you meet with and probably try to figure out what the morale of the team was through the season and in the off season and what's going on, and whisper in my ear if you hear something going on outside of the program or inside the program, you need to let me know so that I know. And I think what that did is it minimized the actual leaders that are really leaders. And like a Roschon Johnson, I don't know if he was ever on the leadership council, right? But to me, he is a natural born leader. And I think what you do, those leadership councils, I think you lead those guys out that are natural born leaders that are willing to speak up and say, hey, this is not the right way to do it. But if you're not one of those guys, then you're not really able to talk because you're only focusing in on these 10 guys. And I think you may diminish some of your leadership, some of your leadership skills or some of your leadership guys because of that. And I think right now, because of, if you look at it, I think somebody posted on here earlier, between 2018 and 2020, 49% of those guys that were recruited into the program are now gone. So who is remaining? And are these guys that are currently in the program from those, the senior class, from those junior classes, are those your leaders? Or your leaders, a guy like Bijan Robinson that's, what I would call a, watch what I do type of leader. And then you got a guy like Roschon Johnson doing the same thing, but it's willing to speak up. But then when you got a quarterback like Hudson Card that is timid, it really doesn't. It
doesn't have the same effect.
It doesn't have the same.
No, it doesn't. And that's the problem. It's like when a dude's going to snatch you by my helmet and tell me get my shit together, it has to be a guy who's doing it on the football field. Like, it's either assistant coach who's cared for me, like you said, through 4 years of strife, walk me through the film room, walk me through multiple practices, kick my ass, send me to the steps to run bleachers, run laps multiple times. Like, you have to have that belief and care for them. If you don't have that, then it's just, it's just another dude telling you to do stupid shit, in my mind. Like, you have to ingrain this program around guys that are proven. And that's the problem at this point, because you get, like you said, you could create a leadership council, but none of these guys are proven, other than Bijan Robinson, in my mind. Maybe Xavier Worthy, but he's 6 games into 7 games, 8 games, 9 games into a freshman season. Like, there's a ton of guys on the offensive line, defensive line who haven't proved themselves.
It's on the alma here, Michael. He's talking to somebody else in the chat here. He said, I think Card just needs more playing time to get comfortable with that. But that's my opinion. But if you have that more, if you get more playing time, does that create moxie? Right? Because I think, again, quarterback, Sam Ellinger had it. Vince Young had it. Colt McCoy had it. If you go back to look at it, these winning quarterbacks that the university has had, One being Sam Ehlinger, who willed our team to victory how many times in games that you probably should have lost over and over and over and over and over again. But does that, is more playing time going to create that moxie that you need from a quarterback? I'm not saying every quarterback has to be loud and obnoxious and be that, overly talking guy, but your quarterback has to have some kind of moxie to gain respect from the football players around them, because they're the ones that get the football each and every time the offense is on the field. So we'll see how Hudson Card grows. Does he have the arm talent? Absolutely. Do I think he's going to be a successful college quarterback? Maybe. But is that moxie going to grow? Is he going to be able to gain that that one piece, that confidence that he just lacks? Because you can see it on the football field. You can see the confidence is not there. And I don't know if that's just because he doesn't have a lot of reps playing quarterback, being a wide receiver coming out of high school, and the reps aren't there as a quarterback. Maybe that's where that confidence comes from. But he needs to be able to trust his arm and trust the athletes that he has around him. And again, our offensive line doesn't help out the situation the way it's going right now.
I'm about to pull Johnny Munoz comment up. Yeah, it's a deal. It's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. You're scared for your life the entire game. The coach calls the play knowing that, oh, my goodness gracious, I probably got a half a second to get this shit out of my hand before I'm, hit by three or four defensive linemen, where you got 5 offensive linemen, you got 3 guys rushing, and they still get to the quarterback. That offensive line and defensive line is the first 2 things you need to fix. This coaching staff needs to fix moving forward. There are no dogs there. Right now, that is the number one. I don't give a shit if you got to get freshmen and play all freshmen next year. I can tell you the team out east is doing it. They got a center that's a true freshman, and they got a right tackle that's a true freshman, and they're playing their ass off in the SEC. So you can't tell me it can't be done. So if you got to bring in a guy like Cam Dewberry in here or Cam Williams and say, hey, you know what? The chances of you starting at the University of Texas is about 90% if you want to come here and be a dog on our offensive defensive line.
Yeah. I feel like they've recruited defensive line at this point, but the guys we talked about, but yeah, they definitely need to get some offensive linemen in here for this 2022 class.
And it sounds like Cam Dewberry, I think I just read that comment here, man. I'm telling you, me and Jeremy are behind the chains, unfortunately, over the last couple of weeks with a lot of this stuff because of work. But Cam Dewberry announced his last official visit to come to UT. We need to close on these guys to give Hudson, Malik, Arch an opportunity to succeed. Again, I'm telling you, just look, for me, I think you're going to we'll see what happens with Casey Thompson at the end of this year. Hudson Card is more than likely going to stick around. You got Charles Wright that's still there, scholarship quarterback. He was a guy that was recruited to Iowa State really, really hard, decided to stay at home. But I'm telling you, it would not surprise me if you didn't have a transfer portal quarterback currently that Steve Sarkisian's looking at trying to pick up when the season's over with a host of other guys. Hell, attrition may be so bad on this team at the end of the year, we may have an opportunity to pick up 15 guys in the transfer portal ourselves. So, yeah. And I want one of the Bo Davis shirts too. One of the Bo Davis shirts.
Yeah, so, I think we're looking at the basketball philosophy at this point for the football team. Like Bo Davis said, if you want to get the fuck out, go. Pardon my French, but if you want to go.
I think it's okay with the F-bombs. I think everybody's heard enough F-bombs this week. If you've had an opportunity to listen to that video, you probably heard somewhere between probably 15 and 20. I'll
never call it
uppers, and F-bombs.
But if you want to go. You know what I mean?
So there was one comment I seen earlier where they talked about Chris Beard changing the minister. I think it's time for a new minister of culture, Chris Beard.
He's awesome, dude.
He's about it, man. He's about it.
He never stops grinding. He only cares about Texas sports, Texas basketball, and the kids on his basketball team. He is only trying to make them better each and every game. I spent 4 hours today watching his press conferences with all the kids that during the summer that I've already watched them, but appreciate his leadership style, his attention to detail, I'm excited for Saturday, man. I'm so excited for Saturday. And like you said, it's win-win. If we lose in Gonzaga on the road, then we have a measuring stick. Like we understand what we have to do in the weeks to lead up to March to get better than or to beat them if they're the number one team going into the tournament, or we beat them and we're the dog. You know, we're a team that has been solidified with 4 returning players, 8 transfers, and 2 freshmen that are on top of the mountain, and people are chasing us. So love his tenacity, love his drive, love his ability to talk to athletes and the fan base, and keep getting better.
And like you said, it's a grind, man. Going out there, like getting, standing outside the arena to get guys to come into the arena to watch his team play and be able to fill up that lower half of the lower bottom of that arena for a Houston Baptist team. Imagine what you're going to get if you get a team that starts running really, really well and stays up there in the top 10, top 5 against teams in the Big 12. You're probably getting to a point where you're probably going to get a packed arena, which is something you have not seen. You're talking about they were amped up for Houston Baptist on Tuesday night. But I think it's that grind. It's his attitude. It's his energy. It's energy level. I think that matters. And so he's bearded selling the basketball to the top players in America, because we just had 2 guys just signed national letters of intent.
Yeah, Dylan
early signing. Yep, 2 5-stars, man. So he's selling that program. He's definitely selling the program, man. And
there's only 2 spots. Yep. That's the thing, because he's consistently understanding what it takes to create the best basketball roster, whether it be scoring, defense, rebounding. He understands that, man. Like, it's really, really good.
Michael Ortiz here. Our defense is easy. Our offense is easy to defend when you got 1 wide receiver, Xavier Worthy, one running back, and Bijan Robinson, an offensive line. That it's terrible.
Yeah.
It sucks that you had Jordan Whittington go down. It sucks that you didn't have an opportunity to see Troy O'Meary play after 2 years because of knee injuries, which definitely doesn't help, because I think he would have obviously been a monster on the outside to defend, especially with a guy like Xavier Worthy on the other side, and then you had to worry about Jordan Whittington in the slot, and it's just one of those things. It tied in production. I don't think we're ever going to see uber big numbers from our tight ends.
We should. If you got you really recruited Jatavian Sanders at this point. Like, I'm tired of talking about him playing defense, because it's at this point it's not a thing that he goes to the offensive side of the football. I mean, he's an offensive side of the football guy. He's not going to defense. So at this point, why are you playing with Brewer? Why are you playing with Wiley? Why don't you get him back out there? Because you've seen what he's ever produced in high school football.
Right, but if you go back and look at what Steve Sarkisian's done over the years with tight ends, and if you go back and look at Billingsley's numbers, they're not huge numbers. They're not. It's not a tight end happy offense. Do I think the tight end could definitely make a difference in this offense? Absolutely, because you have to defend another threat between the seams. I think that's important.
When you're talking about 11 personnel, though, when you're talking about you only got 1 proven running back, 1 proven wide receiver, talking about Worthy and Robinson, why wouldn't you put a guy that can make plays in that?
I agree with you. I just don't think that. Again, I think it's a in the scheme of things. I don't think the tight end is going to have have big numbers in Sark's offense. But do I think that a tight end that can make plays and catch the ball and have to worry about taking it to the house makes a big difference? Absolutely, because it's another threat.
Just like we were begging for Keelan Robinson for 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh yeah, we ain't seen him either. So yeah, there's a lot of things we can jump on this coaching staff about too, man. If they're going to jump on the players, you can definitely jump on this coaching staff, because I still don't understand if you're missing a guy like Jordan Whittington, why we're not seeing Keelan Robinson. Hell, if he's just out there as a damn decoy, have him on the field, because he's scary fast, and defenses have to defend that speed. And if you're putting him in fall motion, then you still have to worry about it. There's a lot of things where the coaching staff comes in that they definitely need to fix themselves as well. And I think they're taking that ownership on themselves. But right now it's definitely a player situation to me.
So I'll answer your question, Wes. So yeah, neither one of us play DraftKings. It's just a sponsor of the show, TPPN. the podcast network that we belong to sponsors our show. But yeah, we neither one of us play DraftKings at this point.
No DraftKings. So the Pigskin Podcast Network is sponsored by DraftKings. We do have a podcast. We've been kind of delinquent on that podcast for a couple of weeks. Trying to get back there. Just been really, really busy. But if you type in promo code TPPN, there'll definitely be some special there for you if you are thinking about creating an account with DraftKings. So thanks for asking about that, Wes. Appreciate it. Jeff Moe here. Yeah, you pulled it up. Football has been the flagship program here at Texas, but it seems like that's changing. I don't think it's necessarily going to change, and I don't think it's bad for you to have programs outside of football that are doing well. You know, and that's the way I look at it. I think all your programs in a place like the University of Texas,
it's healthy,
should all do well. It's very healthy for me too, because me and Jeremy talk about it. It's like, damn, you go from your Texas getting their ass beat by Iowa State to, goodness gracious, we get to watch Texas play a Houston Baptist team that is playing well, and then you get to the spring and get to watch a baseball team that's playing well. You know, I'm not sure where the soccer team sits at, but I know they were playing for the Big 12 championship, I believe, in
volleyball.
We may not be 100% in on watching all these games all the time. If the volleyball team is on Longhorn Network, which they usually are, and I'm usually watching them, but it's healthy for us. And as a program or as fans, it's probably healthy for you too. After taking defeat after defeat after defeat after the last 4 weeks, at least something you got something to lean on. But I think it's healthy for the program. I think the football program is always going to be a blue blood. I think it's going to be the flagship of this program. But in years where you've been down for so many years, it's good to have other teams, other sports that are doing well to help that out.
Yeah, like you said, Texas football is the blue blood of this manufactured, conglomerate. But I really feel like with Chris Beard, this basketball team, like I would never call Texas a basketball school, but be prepared for a lot of winning over the next couple of years with Chris Beard as your basketball coach, because he understands how to manufacture a roster. He understands what's necessary in the front court and back court. He understands what's necessary for shooting, rebounding, and playing defense. So, yeah, it's never going to be a basketball school, but be prepared for a lot of success on the basketball, court going forward with him and Dick Schaefer. Like, they're going to do their thing, and then you're going to have to deal with, the baseball team finding their way into the College World Series, because it's going to happen over and over again.
Where's this at? Terry Freeman said, let's put another offensive tackle out there. You know what I'm saying? Let's just play with 3 offensive tackles. If you're not going to get anything out of your tight ends from a pass receiving threat, you might as well just put another offensive tackle out there and, have big bodies, because you're going to need them, because the 5 that you currently have out there now can't stop a 3-man rush.
Yeah.
So maybe 6 people can. You know what I'm saying? Just double team. You'll double team all 3 of the guys that are rushing you. You know what I'm saying? And we'll see what happens then. But it may be, to me, it's just it's absolutely
mind-boggling.
Terrible. It's mind-boggling how bad our offensive line and defensive line are. It really
that's why
is.
This wasn't a Kansas pregame show.
Yeah,
we talked about this before. Like, it's not going to be a Kansas pregame show. Like, we're going to come on here and talk about Texas sports and where we need to go from here as far as coaching staff and recruiting. But it's not going to be a Kansas pregame show.
Let me see here. I'm selling the shit out of this. I don't see unless you know something we don't know, Raw. Rattler to Texas, buy or sell. I'm gonna sell this one, but who knows, man? Who knows? That would be.
You talking about a quarterback that Texas has driven out of the game in the first half, the last 2 games, and we know what kind of defense that we put against them.
Yeah,
I'll stop with that.
I'm gonna sell it. I just can't see it. That's it. I can't see it. We'll see what happens. But he's definitely not going to the NFL. I don't think that his draft grade, because of what has gone on this year, is definitely not going to be where he wants to be at in the first round. It may be, I don't know, some team may go up there and snatch him up, but I definitely see him transferring to another school for sure. I just don't know what that school is going to be. I'm definitely selling that. I think if I was to buy or sell the transfer right now, if the whispers are true on the boards and Quinn Ewers being in the situation he is at Ohio State with those other 5-star quarterbacks there, and probably not seeing the field for a couple of years, I'd probably buy that one definitely before I'd buy Spencer Rattler. Gotta go in here. Tim B, Texas needs at least 3 years to rebuild. Culture problem, and that's not guaranteed. Y'all think Charlie Strong never yelled at anyone? Texas fans were losing their mind when he was cutting kids.
I didn't.
I like Charlie Strong. I really did as a coach. I had nothing wrong with Charlie Strong. If you don't act right, get out of the program. You know what I'm saying? If I got rules,
it's the same message that Bo Davis delivered this week. He just delivered in a public forum.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, if you don't want to do this, if you're carrying guns, or I don't remember what Charlie Strong's rules were, but there were like 5 rules. If you beat women, or that don't go to class, or this or that and the other, then you're going to find your way out of this program. The only thing Bo Davis did this week was make it public. Like, if you're not going to find a way to settle into this program and do the things we ask you to do, then you can find your way out of it. And I never hated the way Charlie Strong handled this program.
Absolutely not. You wish he would have won more games. Definitely, not lost to Kansas. That again, that was a problem. Do I think he had football players? Absolutely. Do I think those football players went on to be with Tom Herman, which made that 2018 successful year? Absolutely. But then we'll kind of see what happens. This is definitely a rebuild, and you're going to need 3, 4, damn near 5 years to get it where you want it to. And you're talking about us having to go to the SEC. I think Wes Beard, if I'm not mistaken, or somebody put on here earlier, we're going to have to find some of these high dollar oil men to start handing out bags before we get to the SEC. You want to take this one first?
Card.
All right. So who do you see as a starter at quarterback next year? A transfer, or Card, or Casey? I'm going to say, and I'm going to say that Steve Sarkisian is going to go after a transfer, and it doesn't have to be a grad transfer, because you can transfer and you can put yourself in the portal at any particular point. So I'm going to say that do I think all 3 of these guys will be here? I think if Steve Sarkisian goes to get a transfer out of the transfer portal, one of these guys will leave, and it more likely be Casey. So I think you're probably going to have a quarterback battle, probably between a transfer quarterback in Hudson Card next year.
I said Card.
Okay, he said Card. I don't know what Steve Sarkisian's confidence level with Hudson Card is at this particular point.
Nobody does, man. Because he doesn't have an offensive line. Like you'd like to see him be able to do what he does. And we talked about the first 3 games about him holding the ball too long. But we saw, like, Casey grab the ball, and he's more decisive, but it really didn't make a difference. Like, he has the time and the ability to roll out and to find more time, but it really didn't make a difference. So to me, it's Card.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I just don't put it past Steve Sarkisian to want to get another quarterback.
I'm not saying he won't. I'm not saying he won't, but right now he's on the roster, so that's why I'm saying Card.
It's Card. If we're talking about guys that are on the roster now, it's going to be Hudson Card. I think into next year. But if I'm talking about potential after January, going into winter break into spring, don't hold me to it, but I'd probably put it at there's probably about a 99% chance he's going to go to the transfer portal and get a guy that he likes out of there.
I just like to know who that guy is. Not now, but I would really like to know who that guy is in January.
So, Wes Beard, he says Card has to have confidence to get rid of the ball quicker again. I think that Tappan is still there. I think Steve Sarkisian, I don't know if he's telling these guys not to run at all. again, they're quarterbacks and he wants them to throw the ball because that's what their job is. But the hesitancy to be able to run the ball as an athletic quarterback, there was multiple times in the Iowa State game where he could have picked up 6 or 7 yards, man, and got down and kept the plays going versus taking a 2 or 3 yard loss because he runs himself into a sack. I say that the offensive line puts him in a situation where he runs himself into a sack.
No, I think
over and over and over again.
I think the time's come where I'm not, talking Hudson Card to Vince Young, but I think the time has come where, he needs to have that conversation with like Vince Young had with Greg Davis, with Steve Sarkisian, and say, hey, if you want me to be free and you want me to be able to do the things that I do, like you have to allow me to tuck the ball and run. Like you have to use a wide receiver as a kid in Lake Travis. Like his wheels are his thing, man. Like you have to allow him to tuck and go. Like, but if that's not what Steve Sarkisian is willing to let him do, then you're kind of stepping on his talent level, in my mind.
Yeah. So, all right, man. We've been on here for 56 minutes tonight. I think talked a little. Return show. Talked a little basketball. Talked a little football. I know we didn't get into Kansas. I don't think it's necessary. We'll kind of see how that plays out on Saturday. Knowing after you play Kansas, you've got a 9:30 game, late game. Hell, we probably won't get to bed till about 1:30, 2 o'clock on that one. Against Gonzaga, which is big. Now that me and Jeremy are kind of open. Now I think we're a little bit more open than free, and a little more free and open. Now, I think going forward, we'll probably do a couple more shows. Again, like I said at the beginning of the show, if you didn't hear that, I think me and Jeremy are actually thinking about changing maybe the title of the show from Texas Football Talk to maybe Texas Sports Talk, because we're going to talk more than just football. And we learned that through this last year because we got into baseball talk, we got into a little bit of basketball talk, and I know some guys want us to talk about basketball a little bit more, and I think we can. But when you have a title like Texas Football Talk, I think it just narrows in what people think we're talking about. So I think we may be looking at changing that as well. So 66 people in here right now. Please hit that like button. We appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it. You can find us on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, on Instagram at Texas Football Talk, and on Twitter at Texas Football Talk. You can find our podcast on Texas Football Talk Podcast. We're going to start pushing some content there as well. You can find that on Spotify, Apple, or Stitcher. We are sponsored by DraftKings. Put promo code TPPN in there. There will be a special, but we appreciate y'all listening as always. Y'all as always, hook 'em, and y'all have a wonderful rest of your week. And we'll more than likely speak to you on Saturday. Y'all have a wonderful day. All right. Look.